तू चलता चल तू चलता चल तू चलता चल तू बढ़ता.
Today we have with us Nikhilesh Mehra. He has been recommended through JAG Entry. To give a brief introduction, he has done his schooling from Army Public School, Jalandhar, and post 12th he had been to Symbiosis Law College. He did his BBA LLB and also worked as a business analyst in Canada. Nikhilesh will go ahead with his experience. So Nikhilesh, how did this army interest in army came in you, and how did the SSBs go about? You can start.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, interest in the army was quite natural and from the beginning because my father was in the army himself. So I grew up, yes, ma'am. I grew up in an army household. Yes, ma'am. So like I said, the interest was quite natural and from the childhood. And that's how I decided to go for the army.
And after you decided, what all happened after your graduation? Can you go into some of the details? Like how did Canada happen, and how did you come back to India, and what all happened in that phase of your life?
Right, ma'am. So my parents, after my father's retirement, they decided to move to Canada because we had family there. So that's how we ended up in Canada. And after my graduation, I decided to join them there. But the army bug wouldn't be satiated over there, so I decided to come back and join the army.
How did NFA come into picture, and how did NFA help you? No Frills Academy.
Right, ma'am. So I knew about Sir through Quora, and when I decided that I felt that maybe I'd need some guidance, but I didn't want any preconceived notions in my head. And from Sir's videos on YouTube and his answers on Quora, I realized that he just gives you an honest opinion. I wouldn't even call it coaching. He just tells you the picture as it is, and he doesn't for NFA rather. It doesn't cram any ideas or any particular way of going through the SSBs or the exams in general. So that's why I decided to opt for NFA.
Okay. So that's great. And how was your SSB experience of 5 days, the entire screening and everything?
Ma'am, it was good. I mean, I would be lying if I said it wasn't stressful. It was quite stressful, but at the same time, you end up having fun as well. So with your permission, I'll start from day 1. So my SSB was in Bhopal, 21 SSB Bhopal, and on the day of reporting, there were about 245 to 50 people who reported, and then some were sent back initially because of their tattoos. So anyone who has some big, large tattoos, so they need to be a little bit careful. After that, when everyone was settled, the documentation was done, and then our screening process began. And just I think for this direct entry, so we were made to report at 5:30 in the morning, 5:15, 5:30 in the morning, and our screening happened on the same day after the documentation. Yes, sir. So right, ma'am. So screening happened. So first we had 2 OIR tests, which were fairly okay. I was able to do all of them with a few minutes to spare, so I was able to revise or whatever I couldn't do. So I just took my best guess and went for it. After the screening test, we had the PPDT. PPDT was it wasn't a very clear picture, so it could be open to interpretation. The general gist of the picture, which in my group everyone agreed to, was that there were a couple of people on the bus stand. I made a fairly simple story that there were two college people. They decided on the weekend that they wanted to go watch a movie, the new Avengers movie. So like my main character, I just made very, very small things and little things like he took the initiative of booking the tickets himself. He booked the cab. Then he asked his other friend, okay, where will we meet up? After that, they took the bus, not the cab, but he booked the tickets, and then they went. Then they went to have a good meal. He decided, okay, where will we go for the meal? And after coming back, he wrote a very nice review about the movie so that others can decide for themselves. So it was a fairly simple story that I wrote, and then we were divided into groups of 10. In my group, everyone was a repeater. Oh, I'm sorry. So I was a repeater this time. Yes, ma'am. So it, everyone made more or less the same story. So some sent some people towards a picnic, someone sent some people for an excursion, but everything was said that there were people on the bus stop and they were going somewhere. So we built a story around that, and it did get a little chaotic. I mean, fish market in the SSB lingo. So it did get a little bit chaotic, but I was able to give my points, and even my narration, it went well. So thankfully, out of 245, which were finally screened in, only 20 were held back for rest of the testing. So that was day one.
That was day one.
Yes, ma'am. And then we proceeded to our living spaces, and then relaxed. Oh no, there was a lot of paperwork also after the screening in. So we did the paperwork till about 9 o'clock at night. Then came back, had dinner. I relaxed a little bit because we had the psychology the next day, and psychology also went fine. I went with a completely blank mind. I hadn't practiced or anything. So, but in all fairness, before going for my SSB, what I did was all TAT, VAT, and SRTs. I just did them once so that my hands were used to it.
Yes,
I did them one, not so I didn't do it to remember the words or remember the stories. I just did them once so that I get into the mental framework beforehand, before the test. So I think that was a good idea. But other than that, I purposely I purposely kept myself away from any sort of ideas, any sort of videos. Please excuse me, even the NFL videos. As soon as my SSB came closer, I stopped watching them because I didn't want to have any notions, any sort of ideas in my mind. So I went with a completely blank mind for my psychology, and it went well. I was able to complete all the stories. I was able to complete all the VATs, and I was able to do exactly 50 SRTs. And the self-description, that of course, self-description and the 12th story I had prepared beforehand, and I was able to complete everything within the stipulated time. So, and I personally was a bit concerned about VATs, because when I did that one practice session, I wasn't able to complete it. So because I kept on thinking, but after the VAT was done, then even my stress or whatever, it came down. Rest of the test SRTs and self-description I was able to do with a fairly calm mind, and that was psychology. And right after psychology, we were informed that some of the interviews would start.
Okay.
But mine wasn't on that day. Mine was on first day of the GTO, which was day 3, which was on day 3. So yes, ma'am. That was psychology, day 2, and day 3 started with the GTO tasks. GTO tasks, ma'am. If I can say so myself, that I was fairly confident that I might be able to hold the attention of my group, and my plan was in the group discussions, even if I'm able to speak once or twice and able to hold the attention of the group, that was good enough for me. And exactly that's what happened. So we had 2 topics. The first was, I think, about the Afghan withdrawal, US withdrawal from Afghanistan, which was I was fairly thorough with it. But then again, ma'am, because I believe it was all lawyers, so it became quite chaotic in the beginning. But towards the end of the discussion, we were able to calm down, come to a general conclusion. But then our GTO interrupted. It's like, you are not supposed to come on a conclusion like this. You're supposed to debate and not just say, okay, we'll come to this. So, but it went well. It went well. And the other one, I don't remember my topic right off the top of my head. But even that was chaotic. But it kind of calmed down as the discussion progressed. So I was fairly satisfied, but I realized that it was quite chaotic, and I didn't get as many chances as I would have hoped to. But I was able to pitch in, and even when someone was not able to talk, I was able to get the group's attention and say, okay, let's let that person speak. So those were my group discussions. After that, we had the GPE. GPE was with my the solution that I wrote, I wasn't able to complete it. But I was only left with the remaining part. So I was able to complete almost 95% of my solution. I was fairly okay. I was fairly satisfied with my solution, and the group discussion again, probably because it was all lawyers. Again, it was quite chaotic. But thankfully, again, I was able to hold the attention of the group at multiple occasions. And in the end, the group nominated me to give out the plan, which I was able to give fairly coherently and clearly. So that those were our group discussions and GPEs. And right after GPE, we were made to do the obstacle race. The snake race. Yes. So we were made to do the snake race. Snake race is, as always, it was quite fun. Nothing much to add there. I was able to do, all of us were able to do all of it without any injuries, thankfully. So that was the snake race. I was under the impression, because this was my second SSB, that after the snake race, they might conclude day one, but probably because Bhopal, it was raining throughout, and that was quite some time. That was a bit of a patch when it was not raining. Maybe they wanted to just do the individual obstacles then. So after that, we were made to do the individual obstacles on the same day. I was just number 11. So in my group, I went first, and I was able to do 11. I was satisfied, because in my first SSB, I did 9. So this time I was able to do 11 when I'm 3 years older. So that was, I think even then NFA came in, because when I'd reached out to Sir, he had said that first things first, you have to become an athlete. So there was no in between, not fit, not reasonably fit. He said you have to become an athlete, and I took it to heart, and I put in the work, and it showed. So I was able to do 11 of those, and that was conclusion of day 1. Day 3, GTO 1. And right after GTO, it was my interview, which was the first one. I went, and just so others know, so I had been recommended before. I had joined IMA as well, but I had to leave it because of my family situation. They were in Canada, I was here. So at the time, I decided to leave IMA after my first term. So this time it was quite a big red flag which was hanging over my SSB. But anyway, coming back to the interview, my interview was completely around this fact that, okay, Nikhilesh, why did you leave? Why do you want to come back? What has changed in these 2 years? This was
exactly
it.
You would have faced a kind of resistance or some these kind of questions. Why come back? Or why?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, precisely. Yes, ma'am. My entire interview was, he did not ask me a single legal question, thankfully. but I was prepared for that as well. I was I brushed up on my law too. But he did not ask me a single legal question. It was completely around the fact that why did he leave? What has changed? And why have decided to come back? I was able to, there was nothing to tackle. I just told him as it was, and that was it. But I would like to mention that sometimes, I don't know what goes in their head. He did through a couple of googlies in the middle. I was in the middle of my answer, which was, it was a fairly serious question and fairly serious answer. And in the middle, he interjected and said, Nikhilesh, do you use a mobile phone? I said, yes. He said, why is it called a cellular phone? I was like, okay. My first instinct was, I said, sir, so the old mobile phones, they had a battery in them, and battery is also called a cell, and that's why it's called a cell phone. Then he said, then why is it not called a cell watch? Why is it not called a cell buzzer? And he pointed out a couple of things which has battery in them. Then I'm like, okay, like, Nikhilesh, think a little harder. And then I said, okay, so maybe I didn't say. I said, so because these phones, they use the cellular network, which has been abbreviated to cell. That's why it's called a cell phone. He said that's the only answer. And then he asked me difference between a cell and a battery. I didn't know. I just said it outright, sir. I don't know. He said, fine. Oh, and then I said, sir, I don't know, but I will find out. He said, I know you will find out, but do you know right now? I said, no, sir. He said, fine. Then again, we went on the same questions. He said, what were your parents' reaction? How did you convince them this time? Again, what has changed? He kept on coming back to the same questions. I was grilled very thoroughly. But this time, I don't know. It went fine. That time you don't realize when they're throwing questions at you, you don't realize how much time has passed or what question it is. You just go with the flow. So at that time, I did not feel a single hint of nervousness, nothing. because you were just in the moment at that time. So that went fine. I was able to answer all the questions, and that was my interview. Then I was done for the day. I relaxed with my friends. I played some PT, and then that was it. On GTO day 2, we started off with the lecturate. So my lecturate was that was the only thing that I was not at all satisfied with, because my topics were Make in India, Syrian war, water scarcity, and I don't remember the last one. But for some reason, I wasn't I wasn't quite thorough with all of them. So I kept on preparing for the Syrian war, because that I knew more or less, but I did not know the details. I did not know the names quite correctly. So I think I would have spent about, oh no, oh sorry, I have to mention one more thing. So when we sat down for the lecturate, so in my group, I was just number 11, so it started from me. And he started off, he asks you to give a brief introduction about yourself. So the first one gives, and then he goes on to prepare for his lecturate. So when I was just about to give my introduction and I mentioned Canada, and he asked me, have you been recommended before? I said, yes. He again started off with, oh, why did you leave by this? So he kept on drilling me right there and then, the GDO. And then he must have grilled me for about 2 minutes, and then he said, okay, go. That put me a little off guard. So first 30 seconds went in just stabilizing myself again. I was like, okay, what just happened? So, and then 1 minute I prepared for the Syrian war. Then I was like, okay, this I don't want to faff around. I don't know the details. So while I was walking back, I just went with make in India, put my card down, and went like it was a complete impromptu extempore. But I was able to enunciate well. I was able to talk well. I wasn't too happy with my content, but the other people said that you spoke well, you were coherent and everything. So I don't know. I wasn't very satisfied with my lecturate, but the lecturate was over. After the lecturate, we had I think we had the command task. We had the command task after the lecturate. I was called last. I was called by 5 other people, 4 or 5 other people in my group. My group was nice. They were all reasonable people. So no one was trying to be a hero or anything. So my group was fairly nice, and I was called by 5 other people, and I was called last. And from what I could gather, that before starting your command task, he would have quite a chit chat with you, the GTO. He had chit chat with others, but me, he only grilled. Again, why did you leave? Why are you coming back? What has changed? So it was essentially a second interview for me. He grilled me very thoroughly, and then our then my command task began. So when I went there, so I knew that he was asking why you're calling your subordinates. So I had chosen one guy, which I share a very good rapport with, and the other one, I knew that because he was good with knots. Ma'am, these are my 2 SSBs, and I still don't know how to tie those fancy knots. So I thought, okay, I'll call him just in case. So when I went there, I was about to call him. I realized sir has not given me a rope at all. So at that time, I had to change my reasoning. I said, so both of them are smart, and they'd be able to listen to me well. That's why I'm calling them. Anyway, so my command task began. It was from one point we had to just cross the other line, and he had given me some random. So I had a bully, I had a plank, and I had a steering kind of a iron rod with a patch in the middle. But I was able. The first approach that I took, I was able to do it quite easily. Then he asked me to change the route that I took. I changed. I was able to do halfway. Then he kept on adding something, subtracting something, changing the colors, whatnot. And then at one point I got stuck. I wasn't getting any ideas. And then he kept on putting on pressure. Commander, 1 minute left. Commander, 2 minutes left. But then again, I was able to mute that out. I just took a step back, saw it. He kept on screaming and everything, but I was able to mute it out. Like I was fairly good at compartmentalizing. Then he did give me a hint. So he's like, your approach is right, but just think a little harder. So he gave me a little hint, and then I was able to do it. So that was my command task. But yeah, he asked me to change my approach multiple times, and then after the command task, I said, okay, I thanked my subordinate. And then he said, Commander, you may ask your subordinates to leave, but you stay. I said, okay, that is odd, but fine. Even after my command task, there was another mini interview. Again, he kept on grilling. He was like, okay, when did you leave? how much did you end up paying? What happened then? What happened then? So by this time, I essentially have had 3 interviews. So command task was done. Uh, with the 30, I was fairly satisfied, and that was it. Nothing more we could do. So we came back, had a good time, and I've realized even in the first and the second SSB, the last day, everyone just huddles in one room, and everyone has someone singing, someone's cracking jokes. So it was quite a light mood the night before the conference. So the next day conference, everyone they were spending about 2 3 minutes on each candidate. And when I went there, because since we didn't have our watches, so my best guess would be I was made to wait for about 20 25 minutes. But then I just, it was raining. I was just looking outside. Then I for some reason I was calm. Like I didn't even have to do anything special for some reason, because I just kept on thinking, whatever I could do, I've done, and this is it. So I was made to call. When I was called inside again, ma'am, fourth interview. Again, they started grilling me. So this time it was some other officer. He was a little bit more aggressive than the IO. So he kept on grilling me. So every answer I gave, he said, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. Every answer I gave, he just kept on saying, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. And then he asked me to leave. He said, thank you. Any suggestion? I said, no, sir. And that was it. So while we were waiting, uh, so there were some other people, those who had kept tabs on other JAG SSBs which were going on in Allahabad, and we knew that right before my SSB, there were 2 guys who were selected finally from the batch in Bhopal. So we were expecting, okay, if they're selecting two from every batch so far, they might be selecting 2 right now also. But then I didn't think this time your heart starts pounding quite hard, because you don't know your life life is at stake. But he came in, the psychologist came in, and he said, then he kept on giving the usual closing address. Yes, ma'am. And even during the closing address, he said, JAG is such a good opportunity. You get to get to join the army, use your degree. And so he was pumping up how good JAG is. And then he said, yeah, that's why chest number 11 decided to leave. No, he said that it's easy, that if you have the officer-like qualities, or if you have these, it's very easy to get in, but as compared to other avenues. But he said, since it's so easy, that's why chest number 11, which was me, decided to leave Canada and come back. I said, okay, if he has that impression, then I'm definitely not getting selected. So he said, we have only selected one person, and he called out my chest number, and that was it.
I do not have any special words to say, because you have covered many things, many aspects. How important, because there cannot be a better person than you right now who can tell us how important it has to be naturally convincing, because everything was about convincing in your entire process. How important it is to be natural and not be carry something in your mind and just go with the flow. And that's what NFA is all about. We do not give a capsule, do this and you will get through. How important it is to be naturally groomed.
I'm clearly very important, and it wasn't something that I was very conscious that I did something consciously or not. I had a very clear mind. Like I said, I kept myself away from any sort of ideas, any stories or anything. And I thought, okay, what will they ask me? I'll just give a straight answer, because I was convinced. Because I was convinced in my decision to come back, why I left. I had not a justification. I just tell them everything that happened as it is, or you could say I had a reasonable justification for everything that has happened in my life. And one more thing, which I would like to give a special shout out to NFA, was like you said, there's no capsule course. And Sir and I think after the first day when he took my interview and told me whatever I need to work on, I don't think we ever spoke about SSB as such after that. Sir and I used to call him every week. And after a point, we spoke more like peers, less like mentor and mentee. We would just talk about life in general. I would tell him about my physical progress, where I'm at, what my timings are. But after that, we'll just go on to normal discussions about life, how are things there, how are things here. I'll tell him about my brother and everything. And he'll share some stories from his days in the uniform. So we had a very, very cordial relationship, and there was no coaching or nothing like that. So it was just mere guidance. And he said, Nikhilesh, just go as it is. And the only thing that he was quite he reiterated a couple of times was that the assessors, no matter what, because I was able to, like, I left IMA on a good note. I had cleared all my tests and I was doing well otherwise as well. He said that they shouldn't have an idea, they shouldn't get an idea that you left maybe because you couldn't cope with the training. So you have to physically show them that you're fit. So that's why he said you have to become an athlete. So that was the only coaching, so to speak, that he gave me. And I took it to heart and worked on it. And one more thing, the special shout out that I'd like to give, he has said that in multiple videos. And that was one of the things which helped me calm my nerves as well, which was the fact that we don't have to worry about our selection. That is the assessor's headache. And every time, like even before my GTO interview, my conference, the only thing that I told myself was that how I transferred my nervousness onto them. I just told myself, it is their headache to select me. It is not my headache to get selected. My headache is only answer the question they're asking me. It is their headache to get selected. So yeah, don't think about what the assessor is thinking, what he'll do, what he won't do. Does he like my answers? Does he don't like my answers? I just kept on telling myself that it's his headache to select me. That's his job, not mine. So I just went with that mindset.
And how important is to be naturally smart enough to get confident subordinates. You are not choosing your friends during command task. You are choosing people who can help you in the task. So something about logic building that NFA focuses about reasoning. Tell us more, especially site tests. How did you reason your responses and your task, like half group task or command task, wherein you must have put in logic in the application
Ma'am,
of the task.
I mean, I won't be able to pinpoint, I mean, why I was able to give the answers that I gave, but I think like NFA's philosophy that you just become an effective individual in your regular life, then you don't have to worry about SSB. And I think that was it. Like I was in Canada, I was holding on to my, like I was working full time. I was helping because there you have to do everything yourself. So there I was helping out my family. I was looking after my own affairs and everything. So I think I was living an effective life. I was contributing to the family. And the more, I believe, the more you expose yourself to different life situations, it just translates into more ideas. The wider your horizon is, the more ideas you get. I think that is it. And that must have informed my logic. And even like you said in command task, I did not, I mean, everyone did become my friend, but I had a logical reason for why I'm calling the people that I'm calling. That I think is defined by your own experiences, how you deal with life situations. So there's nothing specific that you incorporate for the SSP, because why I was a little more confident about GTO than anything else was I like solving problems in general. For example, at home, I have my own personal toolkit. If something's broken, I'll fix it myself. If the bed is broken its board is broken, I'll fix it myself. I'll take some project or the other just to keep myself busy. So I knew that with these kind of problems and solutions, I'll be able to navigate my way through. So I think, again, coming back to the point, I think your answers and your logic in the SSB is defined by your own life experiences and how you solve problems in general in life. So it's not specific for the SSB that you prepare for X number of days and you'll be able to get certain ideas. You might not be. But for me, I think my life experiences defined how I tackled the SSB.
And another important point that I wish to appreciate is your calmness that you maintain, especially during interview. You were grilled. You were even asked some technical questions of which you were nowhere related. Cell, battery. Maybe engineering students also cannot answer such questions. Why cellular network? Why cell? Such kind of thing. I wish to appreciate your actually. And that also does not require any coaching. So that itself shows that it's not that there is law entry and they will ask you, bombard you with law questions. Technical entry means they will ask you engineering based questions only. They might check your basics, but logic is basically tested.
Probably.
And how did you convince yourself that if I do not make it, what to do in life, because there are people who are scared of the results. You must also have been nervous
Of
before the
course,
results, and that's very natural. But how do we deal with that phase, the end,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, that I don't know. So this is something that my mother has also pointed out. She's like, this is, I appreciate that you're able to, I don't know, ma'am. For some reason, I'm able to compartmentalize different aspects of my life fairly well. I don't let one thing seep into the other. Just to give you an example, uh, I would have been very, very dejected had I not gotten selected. So even on screening, ma'am, there were 250 people, and if you do the math, they were just the odds were fairly against all of us. So I thought, okay, if I don't make it, then instead of dejecting myself for this and that, I said, okay, I have 5 more days. I'll just probably go to Bangalore to see my friends. That's about it. And even on conference, I said, okay, if I've come this far, if I don't make it, I'll probably go here, and then I'll go back to Canada, and I'll. So in Canada, I was in process of my degree qualifications over there. I've cleared all my exams, so there was the last step which was remaining. So my plan of action was, after this, I'll come, I'll spend the rest of my holiday nicely, and then go back to Canada and get back to work.
So, Nikhilesh, I really don't have any questions from you. I have some general comments which would be relevant for all students. And to some extent, maybe of some relevance to you also. We continue to be friends and we'll remain in touch always. That
That's
will
all.
always there. Thing is that, when Nikhilesh came to me and I got his complete story and how he had left IMA and gone back, now he is first settled in Canada. I want to tell him you're being a fool to come back. And I was quite convinced that he will not be selected. I was quite convinced that he will not be selected. When he came also, well, I said, well, it's his life. He has to take his own decisions in life. I would be, rating his chances very high. Now, thing is, there was a big dilemma for the selectors. And the dilemma was that Nikhilesh is not just the average candidate who, you find that he's just about okay, so you can clear him or you can drop him. No, he's quite clearly fit to become an officer. He's well above the average guy who gets recommended. So that was a problem. So, interviewing officers also looking, koi reason mile yaar isko ke na reject kar dete hain, isliye na, he doesn't have to carry any guilt. Usliye GTO ne bhi pura interview kar liya apna, ki wo bhi apna ground taiyar rakhe. I mean, they're not finding anything which is out of the way. So, and this discussion, I presume, would have continued in the conference as well, because they were feeling, on the face of it, when you see this background, a chap joined IMA, left, went to Canada, and no way you take it back. In fact, I don't know of any candidate who has left like this and who has, been selected again by the selection system. Very, very unlikely. We are very conservative. We play very, very safe. So it is, it was a big dilemma for them. And for the, people who will be watching our channel and the students who are here. See, this is one candidate who was actually very competent. And the selection system, we must respect the fairness of the selection system, though they were trying to find out reasons to, reject this guy, but they could not find. And so they came to a conclusion, yeah, we should select him. And for that, Nikhilesh is good. I have no issues with that. I have respect for the selection system that they are brave enough that they can go against the norm, and when they find that a candidate is good, they will take him. So that is my take on this entire thing. Nikhilesh, congratulations to you. Congratulations for joining. I don't congratulate you for coming back to join defense forces because my view. I always told you are much better off where you are. But anyway, that's my personal view. We can have differences of opinion on such issues and continue to remain friends and respect our differences and points of convergence also. Unless you want to say something about what I have said.
No, nothing, sir. I mean, that goes on to show, I mean, if sir is a very no nonsense to the point guy. If he can tell it on my face that you shouldn't come back, and if he can tell it about around in front of 40 people, so it just goes on to show how fair and how to the point and direct you are, and that's why we all look up to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Nikhilesh.